Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Cafe. My name's Ruby, Taunton Dean Village Agent. I'm joined today with Natalie from Step Up Somerset, Andy Pritchard from Mind, Nikki Blackwell from Skill Up Somerset, and Ollie from Citizens Advice Bureau. I'm first going to pass you over to Natalie and she'll tell you a bit what she does.
Sorry. I'm off. Whatever. Good morning. Thank you for having me on the call this morning. Just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you to Step Up Somerset, which is a relatively new service. It was conceived during the first lockdown with the aim really of trying to collate together all of the information that individuals and businesses might need during these uncertain times. So recognising that with an unstable job market, businesses suffering, we might have more people out there looking for work, thinking about their futures, perhaps wanting to upskill or take their next step in their career. And we wanted to create a platform that really gathered together all of the information about the support available across the county. So the STEP in Step Up stands for skills, training, employment and progression. And there's various information captured kind of under each of those headings that provide a little bit more information. So Nikki is with us this morning to tell us more about the skills and training elements. So I won't kind of dwell on those at all now. But the other sections in terms of the employment support, we've gathered together information relating to job search, so sites where jobs are being posted constantly. Information also about kind of contacting your job centre, which we would suggest as a first step. By being a job centre customer, being on their register, you do get a range of other initiatives and programmes opened up to you. Some of those that I can think of include JETS, which is the Job Entry Targeted Support Programme. Similarly, there is a new project or programme that you might have heard of called Kickstart, which is aimed at the 15 to 18-year-old market, and sorry, not 15, 16 to 24s, and that's really aimed at those younger job centre customers who are looking for their first job. And there are other sort of support services and projects that open up once you are a job centre customer. If that isn't the route for you, and I understand not everyone wants to go down that route, then we'd also suggest talking to the National Careers Service, who can offer a range of information, advice and guidance around next steps, and perhaps just explore how you might apply some existing skills to new opportunities. Employment also, of course, you don't have to be an employee. You might want to look at self-employment as a route, and lots of people have been providing care during lockdown to other people, and it may be that actually that's sparked an interest in that particular area of work. And I know there's a huge push to try and recruit more people to the health and social care sector. So we have got some information on there about becoming a foster carer, for example, looking at particular roles, perhaps as a micro provider of care services. So that's another route that we explore on the site. And equally, kind of just bigging up a couple of fairs. So today we have colleagues attending a virtual careers fair, and there is a subsequent fair on the 24th of November for people in West Somerset, Taunton, Wellington in particular, aimed at recruiting into the care sector again. So that's one where there is particular kind of wealth of information about routes into those areas. Progression as our kind of final letter within the STEP acronym is really aimed particularly at our younger job seekers. We direct towards the Education Business Partnership, which has again huge amounts of information about the sort of the businesses that we have here in the county, the range of job roles and sectors in which you might like to work. So I think if you're an adult and thinking about a change, it's a really good place to start actually in terms of exploring alternatives. And we have equally a project through progression strand, the drop down, which is for our 15 to 18-year-old young people who are not in education, employment and training. We have a referral form directly on that page if anyone is interested in receiving some additional support, and you fit within that age group. I think the other thing to stress really is that we recognise, particularly for those being made redundant, it's a hugely stressful time, both before you're made redundant and afterwards, and it can have all sorts of repercussions, both emotionally and in terms of your economic well-being. So the Step Up Somerset website does also contain a sort of support strand where we gather together specific support for individuals who have been made redundant. So a guide kind of that's downloadable. Again, some links out to organisations who can assist, but particularly kind of focusing on some of those financial support services, dealing with issues of debt, housing crisis maybe, and mental well-being. And we've got Andy and Ollie on the call this morning as well to kind of expand on that as necessary if people have questions about that particular area of support. That's really a hugely quick whistle-stop tour through the Step Up website. There is an accompanying phone number, so if you're not able to access the information via the website, we have provided the helpline number, which should be appearing along the bottom of screens now, and we would urge you to get in touch. Option 4, I am told, will get you to somebody who can assist and talk to you over the phone about some of the resources that we have directed you towards. I'm not sure what else there is I may have forgotten to say, but perhaps if I hand over to Nikki to expand on the skills elements, and then any other questions kind of come back round as necessary.
Of course, thanks, Natalie. So I'm from work for an organisation called Skill Up Somerset, and we're an apprenticeship and skills advisory service. So we support the people of Somerset with apprenticeship and skills journeys. So we offer free and impartial advice and guidance. And I think that's one of the most important things about Skill Up, is that we aren't associated with any particular college or provider, so that we get all of the information for people that are looking for sort of help with skills and training and apprenticeships. So we cover Mendip, South Somerset, Sedgemoor and Somerset West and Taunton districts, and we can help you progress your career. So we sort of make those first steps into gaining or returning to employment. So we recognise as well that there's obviously many people whose work situations have been affected by COVID and are changing, on a daily basis at the moment. So we can help anybody in that situation, sort of look whether they're considering a complete change of career direction, whether they're wanting to just maybe refresh and upskill, sort of update their training and their qualifications to help them sort of with employability if they are having to sort of start looking for work. And the other thing as well, I think is obviously is important, is that if people are needing support with other issues, like sort of Natalie has mentioned already, there is this sort of Step Up. But if people come directly to us, we do work really closely with all the other organisations as well, so an agency, so that we're able to refer people to the relevant sort of places to receive that extra support if they need as well. And people can self-refer to us. So obviously, like Natalie said, if people come through to Step Up, they will refer to us if it's appropriate, but please, people can also self-refer to us, so they can contact us directly through our website as well, to get that support. Okay.
Hi, Natalie. What advice would you give if people have got a job but then thinking of applying for a job but they're not sure if they've got the relevant skills? Can they come to you for that?
Yes, absolutely. So Step Up, as I've mentioned, does have some basic information on the website about routes you can explore. So, for example, if you wanted to do an assessment of your existing skills, there are some tools that are available on the website that you can kind of work through yourself to look at where your strengths are, where there might be areas for development. But as Nikki says, Skill Up is the advisory service that we kind of established really to help people through that process on more of a one-to-one basis. And it may well be that actually the discussion it is for those in work via their employer, for those out of work, as Nikki says, kind of going directly for that advice. Equally, as I've mentioned, we have got the National Careers Service, which is another way of exploring that. So there are some options out there depending on kind of who you are and what suits you, your mode of operation really. Some people will prefer to have an interaction with a website only and find their own way. Other people will benefit from that one-to-one support that advisors such as Nikki can kind of offer.
Okay, back to you, Nikki. With the apprenticeships, do you have a big list that people can come and search of companies that are offering apprenticeships, or what sort of ages are these suitable for?
Okay, so apprenticeships are for any age from 16 plus. That's something that many people don't realise that has changed now. And whereas people's concept of apprenticeships previously was that it was for young people, they're now for any age group, which is brilliant. So we also work with businesses in Somerset who are looking at taking on apprentices or looking at providing an apprenticeship opportunity. So we promote those vacancies, obviously, and if someone wants or is thinking about an apprenticeship but maybe not sure what they can do an apprenticeship in, we work very closely with all the colleges and providers, so we have up-to-date information to be able to sort of give them all that correct information so that they can make an informed choice really. We're also we work, well, Skill Up is a project that's run by the Dorset and Somerset Training Provider Network. So we also have really close links through that with our members as well. Although we don't just work with them, we do being impartial, we obviously go to all colleges and providers. But yeah.
And apprenticeships, do you have to attend college or do sort of physical hands-on all the time?
Okay, so very much depends on what apprenticeship you're doing and the actual college or provider that you're doing it through. So many are sort of maybe what we call day release. They might be 1 or 2 days a week at college. Some of them are delivered completely in the workplace, and some of them do block release. So you might have to go for a block week, maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks. So it very much does depend on each individual case. But but I mean, a lot of obviously the learning is also backed up with learning in the workplace as well. So you have to do off-the-job training, which works towards sort of, you learn from a mentor in the workplace as well, so that you're also gaining the skills and knowledge from them as well.
And the colleges that you work alongside, do they provide this for free, or are some of them paid courses?
Well, apprenticeships are free for apprentices. There's no reason that an apprentice should be paying for anything. So there's obviously funding available for businesses to, and the government obviously meets the cost of the rest of it. So there's no cost to anybody to do an apprenticeship. So obviously, if you're looking at other courses, other sort of adult learning and short courses, then some of them are funded and some aren't. But with apprenticeships, they are fully funded for the individual taking part in it.
Lovely. And if you take on an apprenticeship and a few months down the line you feel like it's just not for you and you want to go back to doing something different, are you free to do that? Is that a nice easy transition?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're entering into a contract of employment as an apprentice, so you'd still have to follow, the sort of that contract in terms of notice period and things like that. But it's always sort of worth exploring other options if that happens. It's not impossible to do. So people do sort of have a change of heart and decide that maybe, like you say, a few months in, it's not for them. And that can be looked at, and we can sort of help you as well with looking at other options if that's what you decide. But as long as you follow the sort of the clauses in your contract, really, in terms of notice periods, you're free to move on. Yeah, you're not tied to it.
Brilliant, thank you. And sort of an overall question, how hard do you think it is at the moment trying to find employment in this climate, and what advice would you give to people who are recently out of work and searching for a new job?
Obviously, because of COVID, we are seeing a drop in apprenticeship opportunities at the moment. Obviously, the government has brought in incentives for employers to try and promote and increase those opportunities, and we are seeing employers start to take that up now. So we are beginning to see more apprenticeship vacancies. There are on the Find an Apprenticeship website, you can search for all of the current vacancies in your area. It's a national website, so that's always a really good place to start to see what's out there. Not all of the vacancies are necessarily on there, although obviously we sort of hope that with it being a government website, the majority of them are, but you can also look on other websites or other sort of big job sites as well, to sort of start having a look and seeing what's out there, really.
And as part of Skill Up, do you give any help towards people writing CVs and helping people list their skills and relevant information to apply for jobs? Yes,
yeah. So obviously we're more of an advisory service. So if someone's got a CV and they want us to have a look over it, then we will do. If something needs rewriting or writing from complete scratch, then we do refer to people like the sort of National Careers Service who can actually sit down and help someone sort of create a CV. But we do offer advice with that as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think it's quite interesting actually with that little focus there on apprenticeships, because I think as Nikki said, there's one big myth is that they are for young people, and they're really not. They are for everybody, and I think they are a great opportunity to explore a new career. There is a very clear progression path that you can follow through the apprenticeship route. So it may well be worth exploring if people haven't done that already, how you can get into a new sector, acquire the skills you require for that role while still taking home a wage, which is very important for many people to still be earning as they train.
Absolutely.
So would totally recommend kind of exploring that if it isn't something that you have done so far. And just to add to the point about the jobs that are out there, there are some. So yes, there are not as many vacancies perhaps around as we would normally see, particularly at this time of year. However, there are still employers that are struggling to recruit in this county, and there are still sectors that really do find it very difficult to attract the staff that they need. So those jobs, there are jobs out there. It really is, I guess, about A, finding them, and B, considering them. It could be something that you have never considered before, but there is a lot of support out there to explore whether your skills will match those vacancies, how you would transition from what you're doing now to one of those opportunities. So hence talking about these virtual careers fairs, particularly focused on care sector, for example, the Proud to Care campaign, which is all about trying to encourage more people into the care sector. And it may be that it's not direct personal care that you're offering in that sector. It could be that it's gardening services. It could be support, within the estate management of a care home, for example. So there's a range of different opportunities available within particular sectors, and we can't generalise the jobs within based on kind of limited knowledge. So definitely explore that. And I was, if I can, just going to share my screen, because there's one particular page, as I mentioned, of the Step Up website, the employment tab. Hopefully you can see this now. But we list off a range, as say here, of different job search engines. So you have Somerset Jobs, Job Centre Plus have a range of vacancies that they are aware of. We've got the Dillington Advertising Services, so there's a range of public sector jobs on that site. And further down, you've got some others, some well-known, some less well-known perhaps. But there are a range of vacancies out there, and it's very much worth having a look at those sites and just having an explore. One thing I didn't mention, I think it was touched on during a previous Talking Cafe, was the support that can be offered via employment hubs. So we have some really active employment hubs within the West Somerset area. We also have an organisation in Sedgemoor called Under Construction. They offer a huge amount of support to individuals with specific campaigns about getting women and men into work. So they are also aware of a range of vacancies and are there to support you into those. In the other district areas, so in Mendip and South Somerset, there's funding to establish employment hubs in those districts as well as being, I'm aware of a number of job clubs, volunteer-run job clubs that have been around for a little while, and I guess that's something where village agents probably know more about it than we do in terms of those volunteer-run sessions within communities, where it's really, I guess, about a bit of peer support, so people who are in the same boat coming together, looking for work together, with the input of volunteers and sometimes professionals to just guide you on that journey and try and find your best next step.
Are you able to direct people who need equipment or clothing to allow them to go to work? So say if somebody got a job where they require a suit, they can't afford to go get the clothing up front because they've been out of work. Are you able to pinpoint people into the right direction to get some help with that?
Yes, so there are some discretionary grants available. I believe there are some small amounts of funding, or there certainly were. Don't quote me on this. This might be something I have to come back on during within the chat if I can find the links. But Job Centre was a route through for that. So if you are a Job Centre customer, in certain eligible categories, there would be some small support for that. In other cases, so again, West Somerset is well served, and they have an access to employment and learning grant. So that is something that individuals can apply for to help them just address some of those smaller barriers to even turning up at an interview, as you say. So it might be to acquire the suit, it might be the transport to get you there. So that is available. And we are looking on a county-wide basis as part of a kind of response and recovery post this COVID period to having a county-wide grant scheme that would act similarly. So I can't speak of all the areas at the moment. I think there are discretionary grants out there. Where possible, we will try and signpost to those on the website, on Step Up. As I say, it's designed to be this kind of one-stop shop. So if there's anything missing and you are aware or are searching for information that's not there, do please use the contact form on the site just to let us know, because it's really important that we can capture that information. Yeah, in terms of equipment, it's worth mentioning that the libraries are offering an iPad loan scheme, which many of the I think the district councils have topped up in some areas to make more devices available. But that, again, recognising that a lot of learning has moved online, and digital is kind of the default now for many. We're still aware of some people not having access to the basic technology to then access an online course, for example. So the library service iPad loan scheme is something that may be of interest to those of you who want to have an explore of the tech or be able to access an online course. So that, again, is detailed on the Step Up website as an offer. So worth a look if that's something of interest to you.
And as well, Community Council for Somerset, Ellie Bishop in West Somerset has been running a telephone scheme to get people using smartphones, and she's been having donations of tablets and smartphones. So if anybody can't afford one, is just wanting one because they need to upgrade from an old phone that they can't access the internet, give us an email or a call and we should be able to help you out. So have you got any recent success stories that you'd like to share with us?
Nikki, I'm wondering if you've got any examples of individuals that have been supported into work or into training via the Skill Up service.
Hi, sorry, I had my mute. I couldn't get off mute then. Yeah, so well, obviously, my colleague Jane Parker is the main support sort of person that deals with the support for the individuals for Skill Up, and I know that she's working with a lot of people at the moment. We're getting a lot of inquiries through about sort of apprenticeships and just training and general sort of inquiries really about upskilling. So I know that she's successfully helped an awful lot of people with that. We've had we've sort of also helped place sort of with sort of promoting vacancies through, as I say, with the business side of things as well, and traineeships is another one which has worked really well. And we've had a lot of organisations that have wanted to offer traineeship opportunities for people, and they've successfully started as well, which is brilliant. So and in all the districts, not just one, obviously across the county.
That's amazing. I think as well, a lot of companies are really trying the hardest to support a lot of people as well,
Absolutely.
especially during this time. So, Andy, this one's really for you. Obviously, during this time, people in key worker jobs are pretty much pushed to the limits. They're working hard and in stressful situations, and then people are being furloughed and some people have lost their jobs. What advice have you got for looking after your mental health during this time?
Yeah, thanks very much, Ruby. So I think there's a really lot to be said that we absolutely at the moment need to look out for our well-being, look after our mental health. I think it's important at this time of year that people remain active. They keep making sure that they are getting outside in daylight times, that they are giving themselves small projects and things to focus on to keep stepping forwards and have forward momentum. And so you've got obviously the services that Natalie and Nikki have been talking about. In terms of supporting people's well-being, Minds and other mental health charities in the county have a range of supports and offers. So perhaps if I just talk about those a little bit at the moment. So sort of a primary route of support and contact is something called Mindline Somerset. So that's a 24-hour mental health helpline that's available in the county. You can call that on 01823 276 892. And that, in the first instance, just offers a supportive listening service, can talk about any mental health issues that people are experiencing. And I think it's also important to kind of say that, it doesn't need to be anything that's formally medically recognised. It can just be somebody's experiencing some anxiety, some low mood, just feeling a bit isolated and lonely, and our trained call handlers will support with that. If, as a consequence of that conversation, people are then thinking, actually, I still need a bit more support, they can discuss that with the call handler, who can then link them up to some other wider support. So we work with a range of different organisations, including Citizens Advice. Ollie's obviously here from there today, but people can access this service through Open Mental Health, and our call handlers would link them up to the appropriate part of that service, and they would then be able to access either some more one-to-one support, link them up with some group support, maybe also look at some other services. We've got something called the Somerset Mental Wellbeing Service that we offer as well, and that's about identifying particular barriers and things that might be a problem for somebody to achieve a particular task. And so we'll work with them on those goals to actually make that change. And sort of linking to some of what Natalie and Nikki were saying, that might even be just because somebody's a bit anxious about signing up for a course at college or something, we can kind of come alongside, support them with that practical process. Might even be that they could have their support worker there as they sort of go along to the first few sessions, recognising a lot of that's happening online at the moment. That would still be an option for us to support in the background on that. Other things that we've got is we've got a range of sort of peer support groups that happen across the county in different areas, and people can just go along there to kind of broadly have some social time and support, but it's a space where people can make connections, talk to others. Those at the moment are happening mainly on a virtual basis. We did have some of them return just before the second lockdown, and we will be making sure that they come back in person as soon as the current lockdown finishes. But those can just be a good place to kind of keep outward facing. I think if sometimes the challenges are people can become a bit inward looking, and that might not be helpful at the moment for their wider well-being. Other things that we've got that are out there is there's some training, and we'll put some links up in the comments in a minute, but we've got mental health first aid training, a level 2 course. So if people have got time, they can upskill. The benefits of the mental health first aid courses, obviously it will help you in supporting colleagues, friends, family, etc. But evidence over the years from mental health first aid shows that actually can improve our own well-being just by understanding a bit more, thinking about tips and tools. So there's a real range of things. The other place that I would suggest that people do have a look, recognising that the whole COVID impact on our society at the moment, is if you go to the main mind.org.uk page, we've got a whole range of links there around supporting people, anxiety, going into work, work issues. It might be somebody's experiencing issues at home, within family and relationships. There's a whole range of resources there that people can access and use.
Lovely, thank you very much. And with everybody having different situations at the minute, no two people are the same, but we're all universally in this together, really. How important is it to recognise when you're struggling early on and try and find a way out of that?
Yeah, I think often, particularly as a society, we can be a bit of the sort of stiff upper lip sometimes, and it's important that people actually recognise, actually, I probably do need to talk about this. It comes back to that kind of internalisation I was talking about. The overwhelming evidence is if you've got something that's sort of on your mind, actually a problem shared. It's that kind of saying that just reach out and talk to somebody. I think, services like Mindline are anonymous. They work on that basis that sometimes people don't want to be identified, but also recognising, depending on your personal situation, some people may feel comfortable talking at home to friends and family, but may prefer to have sort of something that's a bit more discreet and anonymous in that. But I would absolutely recommend reaching out and talking, and that again might be any of the other sort of partner supports and agencies that we've been talking about. Often, I think when people do access services like Mindline, they've perhaps already been in that situation for a couple of weeks, and actually that really isn't necessary. They could pick up the phone and talk at the very first instance that they're starting to feel a little bit stressed by the situation. So reach out and talk. And there's been a huge amount of work done in recent years in terms of trying to raise awareness that actually talking about our well-being and our mental health is so important, and the earlier that we do that, the better.
Lovely, thank you. Chrissy has asked about the mental health first aid course. She said, what is involved in terms of time, and can it be done in your own time?
Yeah, so we'll put the, can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me, sorry. I think it's a short course that involves 2 sessions, and we'll have the details to it. It's backed by Somerset Skills and Learning. It's a level 2 course, and it will just cover the sort of main areas of common mental health, which most people will be familiar with, sort of depression and anxiety. So that is the main area of focus. But it's a kind of self-taught process with some input from a tutor, and then a short assessment piece at the end. But it should be accessible to most people. And then following on from that, if people do want to go in and learn at greater depth, there are then a range of other courses that are available for people to access. And we'll put the link up for that shortly.
Brilliant, thank you. So now over to Ollie, really. I've got a question here. What if a person is unsure about the legality of their redundancy? What support out there is out there for them?
Well, obviously they can come to us and ask us questions, really, and we can take it from there. It's a case, you have to really evaluate it by case basis, really. We can obviously give general information about redundancy to someone, but each individual will have their own circumstance, because there can be things based on how long they've been there, what their job role is, if their job role is actually being made redundant, and that sort of thing, really. So it is sort of run by case, because each individual circumstances will be slightly different. There is general information on our website which can then be looked through, and then if they need further advice, they can come to us. In terms of legal advice, and specific legal advice, we can offer some of that. It's a bit trickier sometimes. We do have a specialist support from our head office who we can go to for more in-depth advice about if it's a real tricky case. So yeah, it's just sort of, I say, it's a case-by-case basis really in redundancy. And it can depend on how the employer works it and how it goes as well. So it's all really, it's a long subject area really to touch on to so shortly, I would say.
Okay. What part has the Citizens Advice Bureau played in employment and redundancy, not only during COVID, but just as an overall? What part do you play?
Well, say it's the part we play is where it's only really when clients come to us for advice. So they'll come to us for advice based on redundancy or problems with the employer. They'll present sort of the issue to us, and we'll obviously then have to follow up by getting the information to then be able to give them the correct advice. Some clients will only need a little bit of advice, so just hints and tips on what to do next, where to go next. Some might need more support in doing potential challenging the employers, potentially taking action through the tribunal. It all depends on really what each individual client needs, and based on how the employer has gone about things. Sometimes there is times where the employer has acted wrongly, and we'll support that. Sometimes it's all perfectly sensible from the employer. We just have to give that advice to say that, look, they followed the steps, and that's sort of how it's worked. In terms of during the coronavirus, I know of myself, there's been some employers who've not wanted to use the furlough scheme. So we've had that sort of challenge, trying to get clients money coming in through the furlough scheme and persuading employers to use it, type of thing. As I said, yeah, and that's generally what we can do. So it just depends on the client's need and the advice that's needed, essentially.
And how can people go about contacting you?
There's generally three main ways into us at the moment, because all face-to-face is shut off at the moment, I believe, across Somerset. So there's telephone advice, email advice, and we do have a web chat service, which is dependent on how many advisors are available at any given point, really, as to the ability to access that. That's all through. That can all be found through the website of Citizens Advice Somerset. That gives access to all of those sort of needs and advice areas. There's also on that website, there is on the main page, there are films available, advice films on sort of our four main areas of employment, debt, housing, and benefits. So they're like short little films to be able to give advice if people need it. And so then if they need further advice, they can then come into us, and it'll be passed to the relevant channels to help support them.
Lovely. And to those who have lost their jobs, what support can you offer to ensure their household has got an income coming in?
Yeah, so someone will present an issue to us. It will be, I say, if they've lost a job, we can then look into sort of whether that was a fair dismissal, the employment side of it. We can then look at benefits, income, dealing with finances, looking at sort of getting better deals on certain areas, like maybe a water bill needs sorting, or getting the reduction on the council tax because their income's dropped severely, all those sort of things. And we can either give them directions to these benefits or what's needed, or we can support them in making those applications depending on, say, what the client's needs are and how confident they feel progressing it themselves.
That's amazing. Thank you. I've got a question in for you, asking, can you act as an advocate for clients, or do you recommend that they do it themselves with your advice?
We don't generally act as an advocate for people. We can support them in, depending on what it is, we can support them in challenging and acting as a representative partly for them. It's difficult, really. So we can help with doing letters for them to employers, things like that. It's not often I know of that we would act for them doing that. That's more source-based solicitor's role type of thing. Benefits, we can help them make the applications and set them up and everything, and then it's up to them to generally maintain that sort of thing. So it's not something we generally would do as act as an advocate. We would sort of support them in moving forward with whichever option it is and they need at the time.
Thank you. Lovely. Is there anything else anyone else would like to add? Any questions from you, Natalie, for the other guest speakers?
No, I don't think I have any questions, but just a comment that, and a reassurance really, that I'm conscious there's a lot of information both that we've imparted today, but equally within the Step Up website and others, so that there is so much information and support out there. I'm conscious that it can actually become overwhelming, and obviously we don't want that to be the case. We want to help people find the most appropriate information advice as quickly as they can. Just to stress really that, you know, all of the organisations that have joined the call today are working really closely together. There's a lot of cross referral, so you know, hopefully you won't get lost on your search for the information. You will find your way back round to where you need to be, because we are all talking regularly with one another. And as I've stressed before, you know, if there's anything that people are looking for on the Step Up Somerset site, and they can't find it, then do please contact us and let us know, because we really do want that to be, you know, a useful tool for everybody in the county to use. And I don't know, Ollie, but perhaps, you know, it may be that some of your advisors, and Ruby likewise with the village agents, if you're using it as a support agency yourselves to try and help people through the raft of information and support that exists, you know, we want it to work for everybody. So just to stress that it's there, it will continue to evolve, and with everyone's support and feedback, it will be what it needs to be over the coming months. Yeah, I mean, one thing I think that was put in the chat is just about, really as a follow-up to this conversation, next Thursday, so I think we're on the 19th of November, there will be a Learn Live broadcast, which is focusing again on this subject of employment and redundancy support, and there'll be other contributors, including Citizens Advice again and Mind, that will be just providing some further information, a few more faces to see, just to explore this further. So that's another opportunity to just kind of find out a little bit more about the support available in Somerset at the moment, in a slightly different format. So do check that out.
Lovely. And I did pick up a big pile of your leaflets that I will distribute. So if anybody would like one, contact me. I can post one out to you, or drop one in when I'm out and about, and hopefully get the word out a bit more.
Lovely, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for joining us today. I think we've reached the end of the session now. It's been extremely informative. This is my first ever Talking Cafe, so I was a bit nervous. I did stumble a little bit, but we got there in the end. We've answered all the questions we think that have come through, but for anybody watching back on this feed has any questions, feel free to private message in, send us an email or call us, and we can offer you some help and advice on that. So thank you very much, everybody.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ruby.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.